I would like to read to you guys. It's called A Little Princess. I'm going to start with chapter 1. And chapter 1 is called Sarah. Once a dark winter's day, the yellow fog hung so thick and heavy in the streets of London that the gas lamps were lighted as if it were night. A serious, thoughtful little girl sat with her father in a cab carriage behind slow-moving horses. Sarah Crewe was only 7, but she felt as if she had lived a long, long time. She was thinking of the sea voyage she had just made from the blazing sun of her home in India to cold, dark England. She moved closer to her father. "What is it, darling?" The handsome young Captain Crewe held her close. "Is this the place, Papa?" Sarah whispered. "Yes, little Sarah, it is." That's Sarah and her father. She knew that he felt as sad as she did. He was the only relative Sarah had in the world, and they loved each other very much. He was rich and gave her toys and pets and everything she wanted. Her mother had died when she was born, so their many Indian servants cared for her. They bowed to her and called her Missy Sahib, and let her have her own way in everything. Her only unhappiness has been in knowing that she must spend several years in a boarding school in England while her father lived in India. The climate of India was very bad for children. As soon as possible, they sent away from it, usually to London or Paris, to stay at school. And now Sarah was here in London. "But you will be happy here, little Sarah," her father said. "You will go to a nice house where there will be a lot of little girls to play with, and I will send you plenty of books, and the time will pass very quickly." He kissed her and held her more closely in his arms as the cab driver pulled his horses to a stop in front of the school. It was a big brick row house, exactly like all the others in the square, except that on the front door a brass plate read, "Miss Minchin, Select Seminary for Young Ladies." Here's the house. They entered a hall that looked shiny and hard and were taken into a drawing room where the floor was covered by a rug with a square pattern on it. The chairs were also square and seemed to have hard bones in them. A heavy marble clock stood upon the heavy marble mantel. As she sat down on one of the stiff chairs, Sarah looked about her. "I don't like it, Papa," she said, "but then I suppose soldiers, even brave ones, don't like going into battle. So, since I am here, I must be resigned." Captain Crewe laughed. "Oh, little Sarah," he said, "what shall I do when I have no one to say such serious things to me?" And then suddenly he stopped laughing. He swept her into his arms and hugged her very hard, looking almost as if tears had come into his eyes. Just then Miss Minchin entered the room. She was very like her house, Sarah thought, tall and stiff and ugly. She had cold eyes, and she had a fishy smile for the rich Captain Crewe. You'll see, there she is. "It will be a great honor to have charge of such a beautiful and clever child," she said. "Why does she say I am beautiful?" thought Sarah. "I'm not beautiful at all. She is telling a lie." Sarah wasn't aware that she had an odd charm of her own. She was slim and rather tall for her age. Her short black hair curled at the tips. She had big gray-green eyes with long black lashes. Her mouth seemed to have a smile playing about its corners, but it could also be very determined. She stood near her father and listened while he and Miss Minchin talked. Sarah was to have a pretty bedroom and sitting room of her own. She would also have a carriage and a maid. She is always sitting with her little nose in big grown-up books, her father said. "Send her out to buy a new doll if she reads too much." "Papa," Sarah said, "if I bought many new dolls, I would have more fun than I could be fond of. Dolls ought to be your dearest friends, and Emily is going to be my dearest friend. Who is Emily? Miss Minchin inquired. Emily is a doll Papa is going to buy for me, Sarah said. She is going to be my friend when Papa is gone. Sarah stayed with her father for several days at his hotel before he sailed back to India. He took her to fine shops and bought clothes that were much too grand for a child of 7. There were velvet and lace dresses, fur coats and muffs, and hats, gloves and handkerchiefs, and silk stockings. Oh, and this is Sarah. Oh, sorry, this is Emily, Sarah's doll that she will get. They looked at a great many dolls before they found just the right Emily. I want a doll who looks as if she listens when I talk to her, Sarah explained. They had passed 2 or 3 shops when Sarah suddenly clutched her father's arm. "Oh, Papa," she cried, pointing to a doll in the window. "There she is. There is Emily. She is actually waiting there for us. Let us go in to her." She was a large doll with long, golden brown curling hair. Her eyes were blue with real eyelashes, and she looked as if she could listen. "Of course, Papa," Sarah said. "This is Emily." They took Emily to a children's dress shop and bought her clothes as grand as Sarah's own. The next day, Captain Crewe took Sarah to Miss Minchin's. He explained to Miss Minchin that his lawyer, Mr. Barrow, would pay for Sarah's expenses, and she was to be given whatever she asked for. Then Sarah and her father went into Sarah's own sitting room to tell each other goodbye. Sarah sat on his knee and looked long and hard at his face. "Are you learning me by heart, little Sarah?" he said, stroking her hair. "No," she answered. "I know you by heart. You are inside my heart." They held each other close until it was time for him to go. When the cab drove away, Sarah was sitting with Emily on the floor of her room, watching from her window. Miss Minchin sent her sister, Miss Amelia, to see what the child was doing. But Miss Amelia couldn't open the door. "I have locked it," said a polite little voice from inside. "I want to be quite by myself, if you please." Sarah held Emily and watched her father's cab until it turned the corner of the square, while Captain Crewe looked backward, waving and kissing his hands as if he could not bear to stop. And that is the end of chapter 1.